Hello again. One of the things which really puzzles me is that so many people from less economically developed nations should seek to come to Britain and the United States, despite the fact that both countries are repeatedly denounced for systemic racism. You'd think that the last place somebody from sub-Saharan Africa would make for would be Britain. In the 1990s, it was claimed that the health of black people in the United States with low incomes was comparable to that of black people in some poverty-stricken African countries. It was a scandal. Much was also made of the fact that the infant mortality rate in Cuba was lower than that of black babies born in the United States. The curious thing is, though, that when the so-called Haitian boat people, refugees and asylum seekers from Haiti, sought to escape their country in small boats from 1991 onwards, they did not all rush to Cuba. After all, Cuba is just 50 miles from Haiti. With all that excellent health care, you would have thought it was the obvious place to make for. Instead, they chose to make the far longer and more hazardous journey to the United States, one of the most racist countries on earth for black people. Strange, no? A 50-mile trip to Cuba with no racism and good health care, or 800 miles to Florida. Why would you go 16 times as far to get to a place where the racial prejudice was so terrible? It's a mystery. Here is a similar conundrum. Many Afghans make an arduous journey of thousands of miles across Asia and the entire width of Europe in order to reach Britain to claim asylum. But Afghanistan has a border with China. Why don't these people seek asylum in China instead of Britain? Everybody knows about the Islamophobia in Britain and the racial prejudice towards those with dark skins. I'm sure that if I were an Afghan fearing persecution, I would simply slip across the border into China and ask if the People's Republic could put me up in an hotel and provide me with food, clothes and health care. Surely it's a no-brainer. I dare say that China would find them accommodation in the Uyghur region, which adjoins the border with Afghanistan. There are some very comfortable camps there, especially designed with Muslims in mind. The fact is that Britain is the most liberal and welcoming country in the world for black people and Muslims, and hearing constantly that it is such a hostile environment for ethnic minorities does get on my nerves a bit sometimes. America too has a very old tradition of admitting refugees and asylum seekers. Indeed, their national identity is founded on this practice. What are those words at the base of the Statue of Liberty again? Ah, yes. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. Those who denounce either Britain or America as racist places where Muslims and black people are persecuted and murdered probably won't want to carry on living in such awful places. It's time to stop pretending that Britain is worse than China when it comes to Islamophobia, and to acknowledge that most Haitians and Mexicans would infinitely rather emigrate to the United States than they would Cuba. Is there really anybody in the world who seriously imagines for a moment that the barracks in which the British house asylum seekers in Kent are worse than the concentration camps for Uyghur Muslims in China? Are people completely mad? I simply do not understand why, if it is true that Britain, along with its government, army, police force and the whole of society, is institutionally racist and Islamophobic, that ethnic minorities are not fleeing across the Channel to claim asylum in France. Nor does it make any sense to me that the black people in the United States who are suffering from such terrible health care and racial prejudice do not commandeer small ships and sail off to Cuba in search of refuge there. Either all the left-wing liberals, intellectuals and progressive types are deliberately lying their heads off and trying to stir up civil unrest, or there is more to all this than meets the eye.